Hi, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again by Bevan,
Hey
bringing
guys.
you bringing you some Dallas season four. Who shot JR? We'll find out in these episodes, right? Tommy, roll the credits. All right, so we come back to season four, which the writers for this episode was David Jacobs, Arthur Bernard Lewis, and Camille Marchetta. I guess because it's a two-part episode, so they needed multiple writers on this.
Yeah.
Um, JR's doctor, did you recognize him by chance?
Wasn't he from Flamingo Road?
Yes, he was. What's his name?
Yeah,
Peter Donut? I don't know how to
yeah,
say his name, but it's like Donat.
yeah, it's
Plays
something like that. Yeah.
Dr. Pearson, and he died in 2018, at 90 years old. He was also Mulder's dad in X-Files, if you've ever seen that.
I've actually been meaning to run through that show for ages because I remember it as a kid, but I've never been able to like watch it properly.
Yeah, same. I seen like random episodes, but never. But anyway, he's
Mm.
his dad, and he's in at least six episodes, I think, of that. So remember there was the writer's strike we talked about in the last episode, which held the season up. So I don't think it premiered till November of this year. So they had to wait, and then like four episodes into the season, so they had to wait at least 5 months to find out, or even
Probably
6 months.
was. It's probably also why there was like as many writers on the two episodes as there was.
Yeah, 'cause like to get shit done, kinda.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so episode one of season four is No More Mr. Nice Guy, part one. Um, after the after hours lady at the office, which we never see again after this,
Mm.
um, finds JR shot on the floor and screams. The blood curdling scream that we love so much. Um, Ray is around. He's with Ellie, and I think you can kind of tell that Ray's gonna have a story. Like he's around, like lurking around here and there, but like I feel like they finally got. I think this is the season we find out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's probably. I think it's like um about midway through or so.
midway.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. It's something like that, anyways.
So he gets the call for Ellie that JR shot. The cops are already wanting a list of suspects. Jock says not right now. Like they're dealing with a lot. I mean, it just happened. Like give them 5 minutes. Ray calls around looking for Lucy because she's MIA. She's with her professor dude. Um, JR is unconscious and but responsive, they say. So I don't know what that means. I guess like his like what's it called? Like when they do that tap your knee and stuff. Because
Yeah,
maybe that's
yeah,
response.
maybe
I
that's
don't.
what it is. Because I'm not really sure what that meant either. But
Yeah, because unconscious is unconscious, so you would think that's
yeah,
not responsive. Um, Kristen shows up. We see Sue Ellen drunk and hungover in her car. I don't know if she's still drunk or hungover. I don't. She's probably both because she drank so much the day before.
yeah, probably a bit of both.
Um, Ray goes to look for Lucy and goes to like this motel and um, well, actually, he goes to the wife first and she seems to like know that her husband cheats.
Yeah,
I guess that's just how they do.
apparently he uses the same motel, but like because he's a classy guy, I guess. Um, Miss Ellie and Miss Ellie and Jock in this situation are kind of doing what the family sort of did when um the plane crash happened in season two, where like she's sort of like pulling rank. Sorry, not, like she's pulling like general sort of mode where she's getting everybody home so you can sort of like you know
break
So
the
the
news
stories,
or
yeah, break the news, and like so there's no sort of like extras to the story or anything like that. You don't have to chase anybody up either.
right. Um,
Closing
Sue
ranks.
Ellen gets. Oh,
Sorry,
what is
I just remember what my phrasing was. I'm pretty sure it was like closing ranks. I think that's what I meant. But anyway, it's
it? I got you. Um, Sue Ellen gets home and she apparently had blacked out.
Mm.
Um, Kristen tells her that JR is shot. Ray gets Lucy and she finds out that her professor is married. She did not know that.
This is also when Kristen, because Kristen tells Sue Ellen in that little bit too about how she came through her apartment all boozed up and sort of like says that she's like basically tried to talk her down a little bit because obviously Sue Ellen has the gun that she's had in her purse since the last episode, and she's actually got it in her hand when she walks in, so she's prepped and ready to sort of have a confrontation. So Kristen sort of is like
Yeah,
telling her about that, asking her if she remembers, yada yada yada.
right. Yeah, like there were several people that were definitely going to try to kill him. It's just a matter of who got him first, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I, f- but, yeah, I feel like Sue Ellen probably wouldn't have been able to kill him because of how much she drank at that point. I feel like she would have missed or something.
Oh, probably.
Especially, especially the way it was done. Like if you see when in the finale, like they come through. I don't even know if they like looked and they're just shot. You know?
I think they would have. They were standing there, and JR walked out of the door, out of the office doorway. So they would have just been waiting for him to poke his head out, and bang, bang.
Yeah, I feel like so Ellen would have been like messy about it if
She
she
probably would have
had
fell over one
tried.
of the desks or something like that. But yeah,
Exactly, exactly. Kind of funny that she didn't like wake up in the office. You know, that would have been kind of
mm.
cool. Um,
But either way,
so
what was it? Sue Ellen ends up saying to Kristen, like she freaks out a little bit when she hears that JR's been shot and everything, and then it's not looking good. And sort of like immediately like, oh no, like I've got to get dressed. I can't let the family see me like this, and sort of heads off to change. And I think then the scene changes over. And I think that maybe when Ray finds Lucy with her professor, I'm not sure, but yeah,
I mean, well, like the Sue Ellen, like the whole time is like thinking that she might have done it because she really doesn't remember anything. She's like, all I know is I took the gun and she got shot. So,
she knows how she was feeling. She knows she was off her face, and she knows that she
right,
had JR's gun in her purse. So
right. And she
yeah,
wanted to do it.
yeah. I
Um,
would like to point out just really quick, particularly, I know it's focused on more in the next two episodes, but these two episodes, it's interesting that the whodunit is like the main feature when I don't really like. I know that there's an investigation going on and everything like that, but I really felt like it was more about what the characters were kind of going through over these four episodes, and then they kind of like reveal as well, you know. So like
right.
I feel like Sue Ellen has like almost like a full circle moment, like her low. It's not the lowest of the low that she goes because we see that later. But up until this point, and she doesn't drink. I think for another couple of years in the show.
Yeah, I think so.
After this point, I think it's like another 2 or 3 seasons, like 2 or 3 years before she has another breakdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, and of course we see JR dealing with not being or being vulnerable essentially, you know. And I think that like these two episodes particularly really drive home like playing with whether or not JR was going to live, which I suppose would have been fairly effective storytelling back then because we weren't used to all the sort of tropes of how TV is written, particularly soapies.
Right.
But like, like those things where those archetypical little story check boxes that when you're watching something you're like, oh, they're probably not dead, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so Cliff hears it on the news. Um, I'm
After
not sh
being at the building.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I guess because he saw it, but we don't know that at this point. like he saw
No,
him or whatever.
so at the start of the episode, JR's wheeled out and Cliff is there. So like, but then later on, Cliff's. I just sort of picked it as like Cliff keeping up to date on it, as if he, yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
he already knows too that he's going to end up getting questioned about it. So
So where are Bobby and Pam when are they getting on the helicopter or does the helicopter come to find them?
so like, in the scenes where like you see Ray rounding up like Lucy and all that, um, they grab Bobby and Pam on the highway, I think, heading. I don't know if I'm not sure which direction they were going in, but they're definitely heading down a big old city highway and
Yeah.
get called back, obviously, because he's, in the hospital. It doesn't look good. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, we even
so
see
yeah, some
Gary and Valine. Gary and Valine even sort of get a call.
yeah, so yeah, Jock well right before that, Jock does question Sue Ellen, like, because he kind of suspects her. He's like, where were you at? What's going on?
Yeah, because she shows up
Um,
at the hospital with Kristen. Kristen's like tagging along. And I think, well, I don't really think Jock sort of suspected her. I think he was just more like, your place is here. Where have you been? You're gallivanting
right,
around,
right.
probably at the bar somewhere, which, wasn't wrong. But yeah.
Right. Um, Gary is on the phone in this scene, and I guess Valley's in the background
Yeah.
talking to Ellie and Lucy. And then basically he's coming to see how things are, whatever, be there for the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And it must have been after his alcoholic episode in Knots Landing because they had mentioned this is his first big
Well,
event, I guess, since that.
season one of Knots ended in 1980, so it would have been the same year that Dallas season three ended. The season two of Knots would have started in 1980, going over to 81, like this season
Right.
is. So it wouldn't have been, and they would have premiered not too long after each other, if not in the same week or night, depending on how they doubled it up in the 80s or the late 70s. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
like,
so
yeah,
this was so 81, wait, 80 to 81. So yeah, this will be season 3 of Knots Landing at this point.
no, because Knots started in 79. I only know
Right.
that because I'm on season two now, and it's oh no, you're right, 80 to 81. Yeah, beg your
Yeah, it
pardon.
would have been yeah, it would
Yeah,
have
no,
been season 3. So yeah, like remember he had that little drinking episode in season 1, so I guess nothing
yeah, yeah,
major happened in season 2, where he drank again, and then season 3, I guess, is about to start or did start. I don't know. I forget what happened with that. But anyway, it's after that thing. So she's like concerned about him coming here and being pressured and all that stuff, the usual viewing bullshit. Um, I was actually trying to find vulnerability in JR, but I don't really think he has much because he's still a dickhead. And he's
it's not
still,
that he's
well,
not a dick. It's not that
he's
he's not a
not up
dick
yet.
about. Yeah, it, the
He's
vulnerability.
totally a dickhead.
The vulnerability isn't. Vulnerability can be in the form, in the way it is. Like, so he's vulnerable, but he gets angry about it. That's how he deals with it.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that
But
doesn't look like vulnerability, but yeah.
but he's still unconscious for now.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so yeah, Val doesn't want him to go pretty much, but he's like, listen, it's my family, I'm going. Um, Jack and Bobby go through the list of possible suspects. Cliff, Von Leland, Marilee Stone, and I'm sure there's like 25 other people. Um, Pam defends Cliff and goes off to see him because they blame him, and he actually
Mary
didn't
Lee,
do it.
Mary Lee's also a suspect because, obviously Seth killed himself, but she's
Her
also
husband,
suing. She's also suing the company. Well, sorry, suing the
right?
family.
Yeah, I don't think she should be a suspect if she's suing the family, but I would think like, why would you try to kill someone and then sue them? Like, I don't know. We find out that JR has the bullet in his spinal cord or spinal canal.
Mm.
And did he have like another bullet in him? I was confused about that. Like
He
from
got
when he got shot before?
he got no. He got shot twice in season at the end of season three. So they removed the first bullet, and the other bullet is against his back. against his
No,
spine.
but they mentioned when he got shot before. Remember he got shot the Jock episode where Jock
Yeah,
and him both got shot. They mentioned
yeah.
that. So I thought that was kind of cool. They mentioned a bullet. I don't know if they got it out of him then. I forget what it was. So yeah, he was shot three times, only two in the finale, but once before that. He should really be shot all the time, to be honest with you. Um, Cliff makes himself look suspicious. Said he had motive, and he really doesn't deny that he didn't do it at this point.
He
Um,
just Cliff is kind of just aware and sort of accepts that he would be a suspect because he knows that he fits all the right quota. Like I feel like Cliff's looking at it very much like the league, like the legal aspect of it, where he knows exactly how it's going to look.
right.
At least that's the way it seems to be playing off. Because what was it? He even asked Pam. He's like, "Whoa, do you think your brother's a killer?" And she sort of doesn't answer him. You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, the cop asks JR who shot him. I guess he's like coming to. He's not even like fully responsive, and I feel like he should not be questioning him quite yet. And he kind of looks around at the room and like some of the suspects, and he just looks at Sue Ellen, and that episode ends.
And meanwhile, while this is all sort of happening too, you have Bobby on the outside trying to sort of scramble to keep all the sort of current like working like deals in the works and everything, all of that sort of stuff. Kind of just he's trying to like level it out. So he's talking to people because Jock's basically like, I need someone to be looking at it, like doing this sort of stuff while JR's down, sort of thing. And or at least it gets
Oh,
brought up. I'm not sure if that
yeah,
was the next episode to actually start, but I know that
it's the
I
next
think
one. He didn't
it was
ask
the
him
next
yet.
one. He didn't ask him. I thought that was in the first
No,
one.
I don't
Never
think it
mind.
is. I mean, it could be, but I'm pretty sure it's the second.
Yeah, no, that's
But
fine.
so we get part two. No more Mr. Nice Guy, part two. Um, in the credits, we have Lee McCluskey as Mitch.
Yeah,
Yay! I love this man.
I
Even
always love
though,
it.
even though, like from the beginning, it seems like doomed the way it starts out. Um, so JR says that it was too dark and that he didn't see anything. Gary returns. Jock asks Gary to run Ewing. Oh no, Jock asks Bobby to run Ewing. He reluctantly says yes. Well, he says no at first because he's like, I shouldn't be doing it, but he has no choice. Um, Gary meets John Ross for the first time, which was cute. Um, I always like when him and Sue Ellen have scenes together because they're both alcoholics, even
Yeah,
though she always like denies it. She's like, I'm not an alcoholic, you are.
it
Which is
takes her a
basically
really
what,
long time. It takes her a really long time to even say it. Also, want to point out that
yeah.
that's actually a really real thing. Like the amount of coping or rationalizing that people do. They might even sit there and say that they had an issue or I did it too much, but I've got it under control now. And eventually something happens and they binge again or something like it's it's really weird. Like it's really weird how you can be doing all those destructive things and still be saying, no, 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 I've got it. I can control it. Like, that was just a
Hmm.
bad spot. And it's like, no, it isn't.
Yeah. So Sue Ellen like thinks that like she shot him. She really
Mhm.
thinks that she did, so she's like being up his ass, which kind of cracks me up.
Yeah.
Um, so she's
The
at his
guilt.
bedside. Yeah, the guilt. Um, he can't feel his legs. They talk about doing some risky surgery. Sue Ellen doesn't want him to do it because he could die, which is always, that's what they have to tell you anyway, like you could die.
Yeah.
And she continues to be mean to Gary. Um, Sue Ellen goes to Dr. Elby, and I put that he got a new do.
He
He
did.
got his hair did.
I will say too that I feel like Gary kind of takes Sue Ellen as like he does talk to her. Like he doesn't seem to really be put off by the fact that she's being kind of nasty to him, and he does
Yeah.
come at it from that like, oh no, oh I see, I know what this is. Like it's you're in
Well,
denial.
yeah, because he does that. the exact same
I
thing when
mean, look, he
he
does. He
split
does it several times through the run of knots. And I'm sorry, he's a terrible
it.
husband. I like Gary, but he is a terrible freaking husband. He should have never been married. But whatever.
Yeah, that right. Well, he was made for Abby.
And then in the end, that didn't even work. So
Right, right. Yeah, I always like that they kept them apart and not split. That's another story. Maybe
it
Tommy will have
is.
some words in this one because
Yeah,
he's our knots guru.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, she just basically tells Dr. Albie that she thinks that she did it. Bobby calls Mary Lee Stone. She blows them off, I guess because she's suing them, and you're not
yeah.
supposed to talk to people that you're suing. JR does he has a Karen mention he when he's talking to Gary, and I thought that
Oh
was
yeah,
I thought that was a cute scene. Like they actually seemed like they had some brotherly love for that 5 seconds in that room.
yeah, yeah. All
Um,
three of them just kind of there together. Yeah, having a bit of a
and
laugh. Yeah,
he's like, yeah, if I had Karen for a neighbor, I'd be like getting back there real quick.
yeah.
Dirty dog. So see, I feel like he did not change at all. Like I see no like I know what you mean by like vulnerability, but in this, I feel like he doesn't quite have it quite yet. I feel like he needs to be shot several more times.
He's like fully hopped up on drugs and he's sitting there talking shit with his brothers. So it's like, that's what happens.
Right.
You should hear the way I talk about some boys with my sisters, man. I mean, it's not like that, but it's still probably not how you would talk normally.
Right. Um, so I only made note of this because Lucy and her friends were chilling at the pool, and I
Oh,
only
yeah.
made note because Janine Turner is there, and she's in General Hospital. She plays
Oh,
Laura
okay.
#2, and she's also in Santa Barbara as herself in one
Oh, yeah.
episode. Um, Sue Ellen is concerned about JR. She said something like he seems confused. Which, like you said, he's on hooked up on drugs, so I guess he is confused.
Yeah.
Um, Mary Lou is suing Ewing.
Yeah.
Kristen sees Alan. We did get Alan back for a bit.
Yeah, it's just a little follow-ups on like a lot. Yeah. So,
He was in
what was it?
Chicago. He was in
Got dragged
Chicago.
back.
Yeah,
Why would they drag him back to question him?
he was a possible suspect.
Yeah, but like, why wouldn't they just question him at the precinct in Chicago?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't do that back then. They had to see in person. I don't know. Maybe he had a contract and he needed to be in one more episode.
I think he might have been. I think that might have been more.
That's a lot of
Either way.
times. That's what happens,
Yeah, yeah.
especially back then. I don't think they really do contracts as like hardcore as they used to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and they both talk about wanting to kill him. He's like, "Oh, I thought you would have done it." She's like, "Oh, I thought you would have done it," basically type thing.
I actually think that whole little exchange is quite funny.
It is.
And
I
he's just
like
like,
them.
oh, how is he? He's doing pretty because he started to heal. JR's starting to come to. He's like, oh, he's doing pretty well, and he's like, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Meanwhile, Bobby goes to see Mary Lee Stone and talks
to
her
talk.
out of suing them, and he does. He succeeds.
We also see we also get the hint of like so obviously Mary Lee Stone plays a pretty prominent role later on in the series, or actually from further I think further on from this point to throughout the series, and you sort of get like the sort of was it the her and her dad are the ones that started everything, and basically she let her husband run the company, so it's her
Yeah,
family's money. You sort of get the vibe of where she comes from and how powerful she actually is in there in Dallas.
yeah. And I think he offers her a $500,000. And I also
Mm.
put that she wants his penis,
Yeah, this
but
is one of the first of many times Marilee hits on Bobby over the years.
I mean, it's Bobby. He's so hot.
I think there's a point. I think she does it. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure she does it a little more often in like when Bobby goes through a bit of a single phase. But yeah,
Yeah, she does. But yeah, she's like, I'm awfully lonely too. Like $500,000 and your penis, please.
Yeah, to
Um,
make me feel better about my husband who suicided. Like,
right. Which was only like probably a few days at that point, because this was only the day after JR got shot. So it
yeah,
wasn't
it's like
even that
it's
long,
days. Like
maybe a
it's not even
week.
a
Yeah.
week.
Get out
Classy.
there, girl. Got to get
Yeah,
back out there. But she does tell him that she will settle. Lucy is at the club with her friends. She's like super drunk, and she goes to like get her car, and Mitch is there, and he gets her a cab. Of course,
yeah,
we don't know Mitch, his name at that point, but we know it's Mitch, so that's who
yeah.
it is. The Dallas PD talks to Cliff, and they take his gun because he had a gun. Pam goes to the police station for Cliff. Lucy goes to Mitch's to thank him for getting her a cab when, she could have driven and probably killed people or and herself. And he's kind of a dickhead. Like he wasn't really that friendly to her.
Well, I mean, she did take it a bit thinner because it's you know what I always saw this as? It's like the guy's so like goal focused and goal orientated, like he's in his own world. So like he's done this,
Yeah.
he totally sees that moment at Thingo. It's like he probably thought like, you get the vibe that he thought she was pretty because they do that little stare off at each other. But the way that's
Hmm.
played, that is so a thing that generally would happen if you're working around in customer service or around a lot of people is you'd have those little moments with cuties or the pretty ones and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think the way they play it is really well. Like Mitch doesn't really, or was it Lee McCloskey? He plays it just like a bit oblivious to what she's doing,
Yeah.
and but Lucy's also always, I like it because Lucy doesn't just immediately just bat her eyes and they fall, you know what I mean? Like she actually has to work for
Right.
this, and I like that.
Yeah.
Lucy needs a
It's
little, I think Lucy needs a little humility when it comes to this, especially after last time. She finds
oh
out
for
that the
sure.
dude's married, confronts him, and immediately just and criticizes her friends about men, men, men. And then what is she doing
Yeah.
like the next day? So,
Right.
girl, you need to earn your meat in this situation.
I'm surprised she remembered him, to be honest with you, because she was loaded.
Lucy would have remembered. Come on now,
I
he's a pretty guy. Of course, she would have remembered.
Well, yeah, but you black out, she could have blacked out and forgot how she
Um,
got home. That's what she looked like. She just looked loaded. So they end up letting Cliff go because his bullets didn't match
yeah.
the bullets that shot JR. Um, Bobby goes off on Jock about making decisions because he wants to make decisions for the company, and everybody's getting in his way.
Well, it's just going through and like trying
He
to
has
keep
to ask
basically the
permission.
yeah. There's already deals in place that have already been signed and already given the get go, and they're sort of dragging their asses based on,
Yeah,
oh well, we don't know who we're dealing with, and it's because JR's here. Are you gonna, for how long are you going to be president? It's ridiculous actually because it's a contract that they vote
right.
like they've signed, so it should just like continue.
Yeah.
But whatever. I guess that yeah.
And
Either
basically it
way,
ends with
I,
okay.
I can understand why he'd be annoyed. He's just trying to do basic stuff that's already in play. He's not even trying anything new.
Right. And they're just holding things up because of everything that's gone down.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so it just ends with the docs aren't sure how the surgery went, and that's it for that.
yeah.
So episode 3 of season 4 is Nightmare, and it starts right out with a nightmare.
Hmm.
Sue Ellen's having one, and Ellie wakes her up. And she had a nightmare like that JR died.
Yeah.
Um, Jordan Lee visits JR in the hospital, which cracked me up because it really like he's like, "What are you doing here?" Because he's a possible suspect as well, and the cops just like let him in. But I guess that's where his vulnerability is because like right now he can't feel his legs, so anybody that comes in that he screwed over, he's scared of because he's like, they could have shot me because he doesn't know who did it.
He's essentially not able to defend himself. Like that's the thing. Like,
Right.
and JR's way of dealing with this is basically to get mad. That's why he snaps at Sue Ellen and like, yeah, she is. He goes, oh, she's smothering me and sort of thing. Like she is because she's guilt. She's feeling guilty and everything.
Right,
But
right.
like,
Yeah.
it's yeah, like so he's still a jerk off. But like, yeah, there's different ways you can be sort of vulnerable.
And here we have our Pam and Bobby issues.
Yeah,
Pam's worried that Bobby is doing all work and not giving himself any time to do anything else. He's just covering everything at the office because Jock's busy with, this whole situation. So it's just all him.
yeah,
So he's overworking, of course. Cliff is told to take time off from the DA's office or whatever because even though he got cleared, they're like, we don't want what is it, the bad mojo at the company
yeah,
or whatever. Um, JR is frustrated with Sue Ellen being overbearing.
yeah.
Um, Ray visits. Um, I thought this was a really nice moment. This is where JR was a dick to Ray. Like, I felt like that was very uncalled for. Like, he couldn't even have a good moment with Ray.
No, I think it's just that like they do. It's Ray sort of understands. I think it's that common ground thing where he's like, it's that thing of like he knows that he's trying to help, but he doesn't want it, and he's trying, and
Right,
that's why I think Ray's sort of like reminds him of the fun times, and then even mentions sort of like mentions about one of the fun times and stuff like that. So
right.
I think he's just trying to reach out. Even Jr. to he even says like we've had a few differences over the recent times and stuff like that. But if you need anything, I am here. And Jr. sort of
Yeah,
accepts it, but he's frustrated. He's just angry in his situation.
right. It's still annoying because they were on the outs already, and I just feel like JR needed. I feel like,
Well, we all
I
know
feel
that
like,
this is the first time JR's been shot by the like this doesn't keep up because there's enough history after a while that people are just no.
right.
Like Ray's
I don't
not
know.
feeling sorry
Ray
for
was,
him the next time he gets shot.
well, obviously, because he did the way he treats them in this one.
Good
And then what comes up, later on in the season as well, he gets, it's JR. I don't know what
old
his
season.
problem is. He's just crazy. I think he'd just be fine if like the whole family just left town and it's just him, you know?
Probably.
Sue Ellen still thinks she shot JR. She tells Dr. Elvie about her dream.
Yeah.
Lucy confronts her professor, and breaks it off with him. Um, oh, I have this guy, Franklin. So this is where um, he's basically like hiding from Bobby because Bobby's trying to like get a hold of him, but he only
Yeah.
wants to like deal with JR. So
This
this
is
is
where you
the
see
runaround shit that he's getting.
yeah, this is where you see more of it as well. Like you sort of hear about it a little bit at first and then you see more of it in this one particularly. Come on, go to you.
Yeah.
Come on.
Cliff Cliff thinks about leaving Dallas. He tells Pam that he was going to kill JR, but somebody beat him to it. Um, Mitch finds Lucy and apologizes, offers to buy her a drink.
Yeah.
We get an Afton mention.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember exactly when she comes. It might be the end of the season. It might be next. I'm not positive, but
Pretty
she's
sure it's
coming.
this season. I'm pretty sure it's
Is it
this
this?
season. Yeah.
Kristen and Sue Ellen talk. Um, I liked. I really. I don't know. I always root for like families to be like decent to each other in these things, even though they're not. Like we all know what Kristen's doing, but like it's such a nice moment and for Sue Ellen, and I'm just like, man, she really is like thinking that her sister's there for her, and it's just sad
Yeah.
to me. And I feel like in a way, Kristen is like in a very small, tiny way because she probably could have done worse, like. And she kind of is letting Sue Ellen stay with her at one point and stuff like that. I don't know.
We'll get to that. I'll say what I think about it in a little bit.
Yeah. All right. JR fights with Franklin because JR is making calls from the hospital, controlling Ewing as well, even though he's not in charge right now. But he's doing shit behind
Yes,
Bobby's back.
of course he is, like always.
Kristen has a confrontation with JR. She's like, "You're not man enough for me anymore." And he can't even get out of bed, and she just gives him a look like you're pathetic. Um, which is funny because Sue Ellen's like, "Oh, maybe you can cheer him up," and that's what she did. And I'm glad she did because he deserves that.
Yeah.
Um, Bobby finds JR is behind his back controlling Ewing. He blows off Pam. They were supposed to have lunch or whatever. She sees Liz. So we all know where this is going. We're going back to like our early season 3 storyline with her working at the store and Bobby doing office stuff, and there goes their rift again. Bobby confronts JR. Jock finds his gun in Sue Ellen and JR's closet. Was it JR's gun or his gun?
No, it's JR's gun is in the closet.
JR's
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah.
I also made another note. No lunch for Bobby and Pam. They tried again, and he like got busy with something or whatever. JR gets out of the hospital already, so I guess it's supposed to be like over a week's time. I'm assuming.
Oh, it'd be a couple of weeks by now. He's had
Yeah,
surgery and
maybe a
everything.
couple of weeks.
It's like where the episode started was like the first episode started is kind of like directly after the shooting, but I'd say it's been a couple of weeks in the process. Like, yeah,
And we already have Lucy and Mitch fighting, and they're not even together. That's
yeah.
why I'm like, is it really meant to be? Like, um, I put when JR gets home, he like holds John Ross, and John Ross is like crying, throwing a fit. I guess they didn't get twins back then because he does the same later on when he sees Sue Ellen. Kind of cracked
Mm.
me up.
It was probably just the
Um,
times when the kid was supposed to be quiet for the scene and he wasn't. Like,
yeah,
and that's the best one they got. You
and
know,
they probably yeah, exactly. And a cop comes in the South Fork at the end and says that Sue Ellen's fingerprints are on the gun as well as JR's.
yeah, the only other fingerprints other than Jock, obviously, who picked it up was Sue Ellen's.
Hmm.
And yeah, and big
So,
old dramatic freeze frame credits.
yeah, right. So, as I mentioned before, oh, so hold on. This is the 80 to 81 season,
Yeah,
right?
so to be season 2 of Knots.
So it would be season 2 of Knots. Why would I think in 81? I don't know. Um, but anyway, so House Divided, the season finale of season 3, aired in March of 1980, and this episode number 4 of season 4 is Who Done It, which didn't air till November 21st, 1980. That's a long time to wait to see Who Done It. And they estimated between 83 and 90 million viewers in the USA alone that watched this episode. And it was the highest rated episode until a show called MASH went off the air in 1983. And then that um, episode got higher than this one.
Well, it's I think it's on one of the little documentary specials or whatever on one of the DVDs. They were talking about how like when they like send the tapes and all that for broadcast or whatever overseas and stuff, they had to be like security escort and everything. Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
hilarious to me. That's just hilarious. I mean, and
yeah.
now
It was a
could you
big
imagine like
thing.
yeah, I just it makes me chuckle a little bit considering just how insanely sort of toxic fandoms are these days. I mean, they've always had those features to them, but like, I just sort of think to myself, like, say the reaction was the same, like, or at least it had the same sort of like hype and everything, like nowadays,
Yeah.
and yeah, be interesting. I mean, they thought it was necessary to give it a security escort in 1980, so
Well,
like.
I forget if I told you, but I don't know if I mentioned it in another one either. When I was in South Fork, they had said that year in the summer, people were going to South Fork Ranch and like knocking on their windows, like trying to find out stuff. Like it was that hardcore.
Wow. That would
Yeah,
scare the shit out of me, but okay.
right? And it's
Yeah,
like this other
get
family
off my
lived
property.
there.
Get out.
Right, right. So that family put up with a lot, for this, which is why they never, I guess they never wanted anybody in the house because like it's intrusive in a way, and they were already doing that kind of shit. So for them to even like let them back on to film was, I guess I'm sure they got paid handsomely for
Weren't
letting,
they?
them use it.
Wasn't it like half the season is filmed on location, and the other half isn't, or something like that? Because it's sort of really mixed
Yeah, something like
match.
that.
Because sometimes you can tell it's sort of like a fake backdrop a little bit, and then other times you see the
Yeah.
horses running in the background, and I mean, it could just be those film background. It doesn't look like one though, like it looks like
Yeah,
legit.
yeah. Well,
You
you
can
saw
see that it's outside.
if you notice when they had breakfast, like how windy it was the one morning. Like so they were on South Fork that morning and it like looked
Yeah,
super
yeah.
windy. It was probably like such a bitch to film. Um but they think they also have like the dub over, like they have to dub over their voices. I
Yeah, they
forget what
would have
they
had to.
call it. Yeah, for sure, because the wind would have affected like microphones and stuff, I would assume. But they did a pretty good job with it, I thought. Like the outdoor scenes are really good. Um so Oh, the writer of this episode I did make note as well was Lorraine Dupree. Dupree. I don't know how to say her name. But she did write the Whodunit episode. I gotta look her up to see what else she wrote because it is pretty well written. So we have Sue Ellen is getting booked
Mm.
for the murder, or the murder for the shooting of JR. Um, she wants this lawyer. I guess I don't know if it's the family lawyer or if
I can't actually remember. It was I think he just worked for the firm. I don't think it was actually Harv Smithfield. I think it was just somebody in the firm
in the
because
firm.
Harv couldn't represent her because he's already the fam, like he's already
Right,
conflict of
right.
interest and all that. And yeah, yeah, I'm fairly
So
certain they said that he was still work with the firm.
they set her bail for $100,000. The Ewings refused to help.
Mm,
Um, Cliff comes to help. He says, I'll try to raise the money and figure something out."
yeah,
Um, that Franklin dude meets with Bobby, says the committee won't give him the loan because they're confused about who's running Ewing. Is Jock running? Is JR? Like, what's going on? Because JR
yeah,
is, still doing that shit. Um, Someone gets Sue Ellen out. Me and you know who it is, but nobody else does. I didn't know when I first watched it. I was excited when I did find out. I don't know when we find out, but I'm sure it's soon.
yeah. They did kind of leave it open, didn't they? Because I remember
Yeah.
thinking that, and I'm like, oh yeah, this might have just been like Bobby or something. And then I'm like, wait a minute, they didn't actually. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then remembered. It's been a long time since I've done Dallas, so wink.
Yeah. Um, so Lucy apologizes to Mitch, and she bought his books that he needed for like to be a doctor. And I thought he was going to be a dick about it, but he actually takes. He's like, "Oh, I'll buy the used ones," and she's like, "Just take them, dude. Like, what the fuck?" And
Yeah,
he does. He smiles too, so he's happy about it, I guess.
yeah.
Um,
It's just that pride, like, and they don't know enough about each other yet. I mean, he still has a problem with it later, anyways. But like, they're they're butting heads for similar reasons to Ray and Donna later. I feel like for me, Lucy and Mitch make more sense in their dynamic with that than Ray's perpetual whining.
yeah, for sure.
But side note, that's a side note for later. But yeah,
Yeah. DA's office wants Cliff back. Sue Ellen turns up at Cliff's. She thanks him and finds out that he didn't pay for the bail. He's like, I don't know who did it, but I didn't do it. He's like, Are you sure it
yeah,
wasn't the Ewing? Um, Jock worries about Ellie because there's so much. stuff going on, so he's concerned about how she's going to handle everything. Um, Cliff, Cliff has like some meeting with Dave Culver, so Donna's back.
Mm. And
Yay!
Donna warns him off getting involved with Dave just because she doesn't want Dave's too promising. I mean, he's already got a political career, but he's got further heights to reach, and she's not worried that if he gets involved with Cliff, that just gets involved with all the Ewing drama, and like that he doesn't need that shit.
Yeah,
Which is true. He
exactly.
really doesn't.
Yeah, Cliff is kind of tainted right now because of his like I feel like he's on good behavior right now though. Like he's like
Yeah.
trying to be like
Well,
he's
Cliff
laying
takes
off
it
a
like
little
a
bit.
well, Cliff actually kind of takes it on the chin. He doesn't really
He
dispute
does.
it, and
Isn't this where they started a relationship? I feel like they date for like a minute.
I think yeah, I was actually trying to remember the same thing. I think they do date for like a hot minute
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure not long after that, her and Ray get married. Because I know
Yeah, I
her and Ray
forget.
get married this season.
Yeah, I forget exactly how it all works out, but I guess
Yeah,
we'll see soon.
yeah. Maybe it'll be in the first half.
Um,
Like it's not, it's arguably one of their shorter seasons.
the Ewings find out that Sue Ellen is on the loose. Pam is happy about it, and so is Ellie. They're like, oh, glad. Like, I mean, they're just happy that she doesn't have to stay in prison for now, I guess. And they're
And
not.
Bobby gets in
They still
trouble.
don't.
Bobby isn't Bobby trying to help her? Doesn't he? Isn't he the one that suggested the lawyer? And they get up
Um,
in for it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
So like they're yeah. So they're trying to um
close
they're
ranks again.
like and they don't know for sure that she did it, and she doesn't know for sure that she did it. So I mean, nobody's really sure.
Yeah,
Um,
and she
Sue
still
Ellen goes.
should be reiterated across these 4 episodes. They do make mention and always ask Sue Ellen whether or not she has remembered anything. Like they do keep asking her whether or not anything's come back, this or that.
Right.
Particularly Kristen, I've noticed as well. Obviously, Sue Ellen's asking the questions because that's she's wondering what she actually did. But like
Yeah.
outside of that, you've got a lot of Kristen asking her questions, and pretty much everyone Sue Ellen comes across at least for the first time afterwards has asked like, "Oh, what do you remember?" Blah blah blah. So they keep it very prominent that yeah, I did even when I sort of watched this for the first time, I felt like her blank blackout was going to be colored. And it would actually be like a big deal.
Yeah. Um, Sue Ellen goes to Kristen's. She's gonna stay with her while all this
Yeah.
stuff's going down because Kristen's being the good doting sister. Um, Sue Ellen goes to Bobby the next day. She wants to see John Ross. She's like, only you can sway Miss Ellie, they listen to you.
Stressing out because
Um,
she's probably not going to see him if she goes to jail. She's definitely not
when
going to
she
see
goes to
him. So,
jail. Um, Donna tells Cliff to stay away from Dave, which we already said. Sue Ellen
yeah,
tells Dr. Elby she doesn't remember. He says maybe hypnosis will help. She doesn't seem to want to do that, which I would probably have jumped right on it. I would have been like, yeah, let's try that. Because like she's walking around these 4 episodes, like I don't know if I did that. I don't know if I did it.
feeling
Like
guilty,
fucking
crying, and just sort of
right.
struggling. She's
Wouldn't you
also,
be like, oh, if that could help, I'll do it. But she
I
does
see
not
this.
right now.
I also see this as like a big sort of like wake up call. It was like I was saying earlier with Sue Ellen in this for me. It is like when someone like is like an addict or whatever, and it's a low point. It's that low
Yeah,
point that scares her enough that and like that she stops drinking, and she does. Like I just looking I've said it before, but looking back on this, I feel like even in these episodes she comes full circle in this regard, like her journey, this part of her little journey is sort of complete with the reveal of who shot JR and everything like that. And
yeah,
she starts becoming much more constructive, and she starts doing things about like that Dr. Albee has said, like, you also have to live for yourself. Obviously, you have your son. And at the time she had Dusty, but she's like, you've actually got to live for yourself. And she starts starting sort of doing that.
yeah,
But obviously we'll get into that as it goes on. I just think that it's a really good, this character arc has been going since what the beginning, and it's this is this point where she that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This is it. She takes a step forward after this.
Right. Um, and she's been going to therapy, so it's
Oh
helping.
well, there's that. That always helps too. Dr. Obi is great.
Yeah. Um, JR meets with the lawyer to see what Sue Ellen told him, but he's like not gonna tell him what he
Mm,
knows or whatever. Then I think he basically wants this lawyer off her case. He's like, I'll just recommend somebody else then, somebody else that you can't blackmail or whatever. And he's like, oh, I don't know about that.
yeah,
Um, Bobby tells the family about Sue Ellen wanting to see John Ross. Ellie says she and Pam will go see her with John Ross. Um, so they do have that little moment.
yeah.
And that's what you said when they asked her, did you do it?
Again,
And she's
yeah.
like, I don't know.
Like, what do you remember? Have you remembered anything? And yeah,
So Sue
I think
Ellen
this is
does
probably
decide.
also. I think this is also probably why Swelland ends up deciding to do it. You know, because it's yeah.
She decides to
That
have
sorry.
hypnosis.
Yeah, sorry. I should have added that on the end of that sentence.
Dr. Elvie brings up the gun in the closet, and she didn't remember having the gun to put it in the closet.
Yeah,
Um, so she basically knows that she didn't do it, and she
yeah. They
knows who
go
did
over.
do it.
She relives the scene, and she goes to Kristen's. She remembers, and then she remembers phoning JR from a payphone, and he wasn't in the office or whatever it was. He wasn't there.
Right.
Um, and then she's sort of like, that's all. And he brings her out and they go over things. And he's just like, okay, but you did leave out one thing. When did you put the gun in the closet? And she's like, I don't remember doing that. And she starts remembering, oh, I changed purses and like this or that. And yeah, she's like, I didn't have the gun on me the next morning. And there's that
She didn't have the
realization.
gun.
Yeah, and so it just I also like by the way with the editing on that scene that that one scene has been I think was shown over the course of these 4 episodes I think at least twice, maybe 3 times, and they
Right.
edited it in different ways each time to reflect Sue Ellen's recollection of it. And then
Oh,
also Kristen's recollection of it. It
right,
actually
right.
and it's not anything to do with how it so like the actions are all the same. It's the camera work, it's the angles that make
Yeah,
it yeah, and I thought the angles are what imply the bias, and that's what I liked about it. It was never explicitly said. It's a very clever,
it
simplistic
is.
way of framing your narrative, and it was really I think that was really well done. I think that's one of the little underrated gems of storytelling in this show because it's completely unassuming and
Right.
it doesn't follow any trends either on how that stuff is done in television really.
And it's what like Kristen said was actually true, except for the fact that she left the gun there, but she didn't. She just left that part out, basically.
Yeah, and because you're
Um,
not looking for it in earlier parts of the scene, if you go back over the scene, which I did by the way, it is edited in a really particular way where it's unassumed and the viewer doesn't notice. It's so well
right.
done. They play on the viewer paying attention to what's more like what Kristen's saying and like yeah, it was just really well
Yeah.
done.
Um, Sue, oh yeah, so she heads to South Fork or whatever, to look
Yeah,
for Kristen.
he was
And
supposed to be going there to
she,
grab her things.
yeah. Oh, she was there to get her things. And JR just cracked me up. Like he's like afraid of Sue Ellen and he's in a wheelchair. So he's like hustling out of the way and then he's trying to get up. She's like, JR, I'm just here to see Kristen. What are you doing?
Yeah, she
Um,
looks at him very sympathetically. She's just like, I'm not here to hurt you. Like,
right. It was kind of funny though to see him panic, oh, like be afraid of her. I,
vulnerability.
right. The only time I feel like. Um, and so Kristen comes out and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here? Whatever." And Sue Ellen's like, "You tried to frame me and all this stuff," and then basically says that it was her. Um, and then like JR gets on the phone to call the cops, and then she says she's pregnant.
And then she went, "You're a child born in prison." I mean, I know the reason why she said it that way, but I can hear the tone because of how perfectly separated, like the word, like it's just very on time. The way she delivers that line, I can hear it perfectly in my head.
Yeah,
The
and
pause,
yeah,
the dramatic pause, and then the
and I like that when Sue Ellen like tries to get to the phone too, she's like, let me at the police. Like I'm not going down for this bitch type of thing. Because I would have probably done the same thing, like panic. He's like, I'll handle her in my own way, and that's the
well,
end of
Kristen was
that.
looking
And
all smug right up until that last little line, and that's when you see like, and you actually, I like this bit though because like there is this moment there because Mary Cosby plays Kristen in that I've got the control. I know I'm not going to get in trouble for this, and then JR says that,
hmm
and it just changes, and she's like, uh, okay, what does that mean? Like and yeah, so it ends, and obviously so the little exposition thing and flashback is once again those scenes played out a little bit more. Well, not a little bit more. It's just those little added things where they make a proper focus on I think on the gun on Kristen's little table, and you see her like hook it with like grab it out of her bag and drop it in Sue Ellen's cupboard while she's getting ready to go to the hospital in the first episode. With what you were saying earlier, as far as Kristen sort of being nice and all that, and she kind of is, I agree. I agree. I think that Kristen set her up in a way that was like, if they find it, I won't get in trouble for it.
yeah,
Because even Jock says that him finding the gun in the cupboard was a fluke. So there's this whole idea that there would have been this level of like assumption that things probably wouldn't have been found, and if they were, it might have been too late to do anything about for like fingerprints or evidence or whatever. But um she's fully prepared to go the whole hog at the same time though, so it's like she just anticipates the situation. It's like
yeah,
until something comes of this, I'll support Sue Ellen, and then Sue Ellen, it gets worse, and so she's also covering her own ass by being nice, and then obviously gets caught out and then starts the vindictive shit. She's already plotted it out.
right, right,
I've always thought it was very much a bit of both. It's a bit of caring for Sue Ellen, but it's mostly self-preservation, just in case.
right, for sure, for sure. And I also, she basically says like it'll be like a scandal for the family if there's like a JR baby in jail or whatever. So
Yeah,
hence why JR is like not gonna report her to the police.
which is something that's probably not such a big deal nowadays. Like heaps of baby
Right.
mamas and baby daddy been in jail, so like,
But I guess
but
I guess back
certainly
then
in that.
it could have taken down their business in a way, like people wouldn't want to work with them and all that
Oh,
stuff.
it would have just looked bad. It just would have, like, you know what it's like. I mean, like you know what these sort of eras are like. You're looking at like, I mean, I don't know exactly how it would have been, but you're looking at like, what, coming out of the '80s, a high, sort of upper class crust family who is well known in their area. Like they're well known in
Right.
Dallas and the surrounding regions, in Fort Worth, by which I know is just outside, and obviously in Houston because they mention Houston business a lot. So like
Yeah.
in Texas, I think JR is quite well known.
Yeah.
And it is
So it
that
would have
old
not.
sensibilities thing. There is that a very traditionalist vibe to at least Dallas, like not real Dallas, at least Dallas the TV show's
Right,
version of
right,
Texas. So I obviously haven't been there, but I imagine that is somewhat reflective of reality to a degree.
right. Yeah, I'm sure. Like people wouldn't want to do business with them and stuff. I mean, it's like JR, they'll be like, oh, look at the scandal. It's like his wife's sister is pregnant with his baby. Like,
It's not
that's a
worth the
big deal.
drama. Yeah, it's not
It's a
worth the
big deal
drama,
back then. Right. So they'll go with
and it
another
doesn't.
oil company. They'll go with the Carringtons.
It's also not proper. It's also not proper. But
Right,
yeah.
right. All right.
Oh, and
Anything
then
else to say? Wait.
that kid would have been a bastard as well. So a bastard raised
Mm,
in prison. So
yeah. Yep.
that
Anything?
that was a stigma, I guess, back in the day. I don't know if it was in
Yeah.
1980, but yeah.
But anything else to add about these episodes?
No, I thought that like the Who Done It. I think that it's weird that considering that would have been the focus, and it's not just because it took 4 episodes, and not that they don't have a police investigation and they don't go over suspects or motives, yada yada yada. But it's weird that it feels like the backdrop of like what the characters are actually going through. So you have Miss Ellie and Jock sort of closing ranks and being sort of the glue that's like, okay, we're the parents, we'll deal with this, and they sort of like designate tasks to everybody almost, you know.
Right.
Bobby's sitting there trying to get a freaking handle on the on the family business, and he's
Right.
getting headed off at the going forward because JR's also meddling.
Right.
Um, while JR is this is all about JR's control problems, like his control problems, the vulnerability. Oh, I'm going to lose my position. Oh, I can't walk. Oh, I'm, and he doesn't just be like, oh, I can't. Not just like he actually says he's like, I'll be going home, but I won't be going home on my 2 feet. Like there's
Right.
all these like, little moments where the reality of what might actually happen with him is set in, and it also, for me, explains why he just pish poshes Sue Ellen's concern for his life, because it's just like, no, 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 no. There's no
Yeah.
JR
Yeah.
wheeling in a wheelchair sort of thing, and it's this, yeah. I think it was weirdly more about the character development than the actual
Yeah, it
whodunit
was
plot,
for
which
sure.
would, yeah, which is, yeah, even though it still took prominence, I just found myself this time and just loving just more or less how well Sue Ellen's story just flows together. Like, particularly her character development and character writing, it's so well done.
They cared about story back then, like
However, it's not that
for
other
sure.
stories are bad or anything. It's just hers particularly. I'm just like, wow. We always, yeah. I'm more
No, but they did.
impressed with that.
They played the beats back then. Like where now everything's for shock value. So they're just trying like everything is shock. Like I feel like in current TV shows, like there's nothing like old school storytelling anymore like this, where
I
it's
do
actually
think that
good laid out story, thought out story.
I actually do think that the Dynasty reboot was a nice balance of modern and old. It
For sure.
was it's sort of like that modern meta site type vibe where like it's a kind of aware of what it is, so it just embraces it and it's crazy at times,
Right.
and you have the characters being sarcastic and making fun of it, but then you also have these really sort of like larger than life characters that they have these moments, like where I wouldn't say it's probably as family orientated or as well done in that regard as say Dallas was, because that is the one of the perfect family dramas for me, or melodramas.
Right.
But I think Dynasty Reboot was a really good modern version of something similar that is um, aware of what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when Alexis keeps changing her faces, they make jokes about it constantly for like half a
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
Like, and
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's
And the
great.
crystals and all that.
Yeah, I do. I love that show. It's a really great follow up, or a great reimagining. But
Yeah.
obviously, that's another podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think we ever touched on that dynasty, but there's so much to do.
Yeah, well, it's just that element of like, you're right. I do think that a lot of shows do like plot over, like crazy plots or
Shock.
shock value and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Like in Melrose Place, I feel like almost was a like shock value at one point,
yeah.
over
I think
storytelling.
I think about it sometimes too. I'm like, how did Melrose go for 7 seasons and have the episode count that it did? It burned through like 3 or 4 years worth of story in like the first two. Like,
Right.
sorry, not the first two. Maybe over season 2 and 3, they had probably about 3 or 4 seasons worth of storylines.
All right, well, we'll wrap this episode up of Dallas. We'll bring you more Dallas in the future. Join us, follow us on all the socials. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you liked about Dallas. Tell us something. Give us some feedback, people. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.